payment. Oh, damn, I paid another bill.
It's like everything just sinks. It's like, oh, damn.
Oh,
But yeah.
oh my goodness.
I haven't actually appeared on Jeffrey's show, A Pirate Show, in some time now.
Well, you got to take it. You got to take it with a stride. You know what I mean? Because like for the last, I'd say for the last 6 months, I've been real quiet, not saying nothing on there whenever I went on there, because like there's no time to really talk. You know what I mean? It's all Jaffe. And
is he some kind of a Buddhist or something?
Yeah, he's Buddhist.
Is he one of those mean Buddhists?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
like
there's been some Buddhist sparks struck over at the Discord there. I don't know if you noticed or not. I know you're a busy guy, but our friend Thur there, the meanest Buddhist of them all, there was really classic. Plenty of bosses was losing patience with him.
Well, I don't think Thur is actually a Buddhist from all this research I've done, to be honest with you. I mean, he doesn't really. I think when you said.
Basa agrees with you, I think, on that. He doesn't consider him a Buddhist either.
When you said ethno-nationalist, I think that pretty much matches Thur to a T. Like he also Indo-European. He really talks a lot of Indo-European language. You know?
Yeah, he's kind of fashy. A few of those guys can be. But yeah, no, he just well, again, I'm not telling tales out of school because it's there publicly in the Discord. But yeah, he's just like
he's a wild man.
He is, but not as wild as Jaffe.
Well, I think if you have a chance, maybe get him hooked up with Thur and have Thur go on Jaffe's show, because I think Jaffe would actually enjoy having him on there, to be honest.
Just a thought. I don't really talk to him much, but I can suggest it.
Yeah. Or I could probably suggest it if he wants to go on there. Maybe ask him if he wants to go on Jaffe's show. Because he has Brian Rue on there. He's had him on there twice. So.
Actually, Brian and Basa just did a video on meditation.
Mm-hmm. Well,
just keep Brian focused on Buddhism, and he's great.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was telling Jaffe too. Whenever I did an interview with Brian, I mean, Brian was just excellent. It wasn't about Buddhism, but he was right on target.
Oh yeah, he is. He is. But I really do love tapping his mind on Buddhism. He has, not only is he really knowledgeable, but he has gone, you see, he's a Theravada Buddhist now, but he came out of a Tibetan Buddhist background. Mm-hmm. So he studied the Mahayana and the Vajrayana stuff. Eventually he saw past it, came to the true Dhamma, but he's very knowledgeable about it, so you can talk to him about it, but he talks about it from a Theravada standpoint. And, it's hard to find someone with that wide a knowledge of Buddhism. So he makes for some interesting insights.
Well, with me, I mean, the only thing I want to get into is freaking the Naga. You know what I mean? It's like, and he won't talk about the Naga either. He's very. I think it's a superstition among the Buddhists where they just do not want to discuss it because it goes into areas that they don't really want to discuss. You know what I mean?
Well, Punadamo did that video there. He did talk about the Nagas some. I think I sent you a link, Roger.
Yeah.
Where he talked about them. And there was that incident where a Naga wanted to become a monk. And he joined the Sangha, but at night he would turn back into a giant snake, and he scared the other monks, so the Buddha had to say, sorry, no Nagas allowed. And technically, they are animals. They are part of the animal realm, even though they're intelligent and can talk and stuff like that. So that makes it like they're not going to become Buddhas or anything like that or achieve enlightenment, but they can practice if they want to, and in their next lifetime, with any luck, they'll have a human incarnation, and then they'd be able to, like, from there, attain enlightenment. You could be an animal and be a bodhisattva, though, but you can't be an arhat as an animal. I believe that's the Theravada rules.
That's cool.
That's the rule. Sorry, Nagas. Silly Nagas. Bigfoot is for humans.
you
But
know,
they have an interesting role in some of the Mahayana ideas. That's where it gets a little swirly because a lot of the Mahayana stuff doesn't make it, like the Pure Land stuff. It simply doesn't make sense to me. Because for me, Buddhism is all about working on yourself. And as another Buddhist friend of mine commenting on this says, if you're a Westerner and you take up Pure Land, it's just basically you just want to call yourself a Buddhist and not do any of the work. Not do any of the work on disciplining your mind, not do any of the work of trying to control your emotions, not do any of the work of trying to be happier. Instead, you just say, I always call it gimme Buddha. You just say, please, Amida, I want to be reborn in your lotus land. And then all you got to do is wait till the next lifetime. And bam, you'll be an Arhat. No work required. And it's like, what's the point? I mean, you're just as miserable. I mean, for me, Buddhism is something you do in the here and now to change your life. And I would think any religion, if you're a devout Catholic, if you're a devout Buddhist, if you're a devout, Zoroastrian, it's there to fulfill a spiritual need. And my spiritual needs are not satisfied with do whatever you want. It's okay. It'll be all right next lifetime. You just did this magic formula. I mean, it's for me personally, it's just not satisfying, and it makes no sense because I'm looking for something that's going to help me change, not something that tells me to stay the same. But I don't know though. People are very strange. Every religion goes into weird curlicues with time. Just goes into these weird side issues and stuff.
See, that's why I really think that with me, I don't really get into the religions, and I think that it's a benefit for me because it piques my curiosity when you talk about them because it makes me think of Christianity in the term of accepting Jesus into your heart and all's forgiven. All you have to say is I accept you as my Lord and Savior and all's good. And there's a lot of Christians who believe that that they don't believe that they have to do any work. It's just you have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior and everything's good.
Right, faith versus works. Yeah, well, I don't doubt that you can have an inner transformation like that if you're really letting God into your heart, or Amida Buddha, for that matter, into your heart. Although I don't really understand the details of the Pure Land doctrine. But it seems to me that all through history, religion, it comes from, as I understand it, the word religio. It's Latin. It means binding together. Religion is something that is the community as a whole, creating a spiritual whole and a social whole, and yes, a governmental whole. Again, things we usually separate in the modern world, and that includes helping each other. And the idea of works, I mean, when Henry VIII, dissolved the monasteries, yes, he seized a lot of wealth. Yes, the monasteries owned like a third of the land in England or something like that at the time. Certainly there were abuses. At the same time, these monasteries also were the source of things like hospitals and retirement homes, poorhouses, and places where the middle class could retire. They didn't have pensions, 401ks, but if you were a halfway decent merchant, you could make a nice donation to the local monastery and you could be a monk in your declining years. You'd have 3 squares a day, probably a decent place to sleep since you were a donor. They provided a lot of the social safety nets that were simply gone. And yes, there was still something of the feudal tradition of caring for the less fortunate. I've talked before about the Elizabethan who was refused a grant of arms because his gate was not greasy enough. He wasn't giving enough to the poor. And I've talked about Henry VIII keeping a huge kitchen, cooking 24 hours a day, producing tons of excess food, which was handed out to poor people. So they weren't unaware of this, but again, they were very short-sighted. Henry's like, oh, good, I can afford to pay for that field of the cloth of gold thing, where I think he spent the whole gross national product of the country for what was basically a party with the King of France. He needed money, obviously. So, we'll take it from these monks, and I can't get a divorce from these guys anyway, so, I'll be head of the church, and I decide I want to keep all the money. It's always, works has always been just an outgrowth of that inner transformation, if you want to look at it on that level. But it's so given to abuse. And so many people will not have this transformation, the people that pray with their lips and not their heart. But at least if they have the obligation of good works, they're still doing something good, even if it's despite themselves. And from a Buddhist standpoint, when you do these good works, it is good for you. It is merit. In Buddhism, they say you can't take your clothes, you can't take your money, you can't take your possessions, but you can take the goodness you've done. That stays with you. And of course, the badness, we don't talk about that as much. But the Buddha said, when you leave this body and you come to it, you get to the other body, he says, all the good things you've done will be waiting for you. And they will greet you like family that hasn't seen you in years. They will be so glad, and you'll be so glad to see them. Doesn't mention the other, the bad deeds will also be waiting there, and you can imagine how they're going to regard you. So you want to have good people meeting you.
Right. When you mentioned that, and honestly, or while you were talking, the thing that went through my mind was also, I forgot the name of it. I can't believe I forgot it, but it's that big cathedral that they have over in India. It's the
Taj Mahal?
The Taj Mahal. Yes.
Yeah.
And the story that goes with that, like they made the son of the ruler who actually did the Taj Mahal, they made him out to be a villain. But then when I did further research into it, I found out that the reason why his son did what he did was because his father had depleted the entire freaking Indian economy building that Taj Mahal.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And it actually stood unfinished for almost 100, 150 years before they got it finished.
Wow.
And
now it's like a major tourist attraction. It probably generates so much cash for them now.
Mm-hmm. That kind of goes into what you were saying there, you know what I mean? Because he invested everything in his entire country's economy into it, you know?
They didn't think in terms of economies like we do, So what if I spend all the money? It's like, we'll just tax more. Like, it's not as easy as that. Wealth isn't money. Wealth is food and land.
Eventually, his son had to take power, and he had to be imprisoned, I believe. And for him, he wasn't like put behind bars. He was just like on house arrest.
Yeah, guys like that.
For the rest of his life. And it was an interesting story, and that's kind of like...
in those Eastern families, a lot of the traditionally they would like just kill a lot of the other heirs, like when the Turkish, the Turkish Sultan would have like, dozens of sons sometimes, because he had all these concubines and wives and stuff. And he'd pick, you're going to be the king after me. And then he would start killing his brothers, because any one of them would say, well, I have just as much right. They didn't have primogeniture as such. They just it was generational, and it was like whoever was appointed. But he had to hang on to it. But they had this other tradition called the cage. And so if they had a troublesome brother or something, or an heir that they didn't want him running around, but they didn't really want to kill him because he could come in handy. So they put him in what they called the cage. And it was this palace that was built inside a palace. And it was like a prison, but it was a beautiful prison. It was like, all these rooms. And of course, he had cooks and every luxury. 4 wives, all of whom had been sterilized. I don't even think how they did that in the Middle Ages. And so he was like provided with everything. But they had this one guy, what was his name? I think it was Ibrahim, who had been basically in the cage like almost all his life. And something happened politically, and he was the heir, so they just took him out. You're the Sultan now. He'd never been outside of the cage, and they gave him the Turkish Empire to run. So he was a little weird, let's just say. You can look him up in the history books, but it's, basically, I was just reminded of this, people that keep their cats indoors all the time. You got a kitten, and you just never let it out of the house. And they get out, and they're just like, they have no idea. They're no spatial. They're basically